Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. Tuesdays and Fridays, I take time to answer questions from people about job search, hiring more effectively, managing, leading, different workplace related issues. Right? See that? Those are some of the things that I tend to cover. And if you've got a question for me, please put your question into chat. I'd be very happy to answer it for you. I'm also going to mention I'm an early adopter of LinkedIn. I was LinkedIn member 7654. And as such, a lot of people have reached out to connect with me over the years. And connecting with me, following me, will do a couple of things. Connecting will get access to my connections. Following me will also give you a ton of content. So connect or follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the big game hunter. Mention that you saw this live stream. I like knowing I'm helping some folks. And once we're connected, your network is going to be a lot larger because my people become your second level connections. Also, I'm going to remind you, visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us, where you can schedule time for a free discovery call or schedule time for a paid coaching session with me. You can also find out about my courses, books, and guides. There's just a lot there to help. And I'm just going to remind you, subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube or download the app by the same name on Amazon. If you've got a Fire TV or Fire Stick, you can watch me on your big screen set or on bingenetworks.tv, which streams to more than 300 different platforms. You can watch JobSearch TV there. And my podcast, which is number one in Apple Podcasts for job search. It's been on air for more than 12 years and more than 2,500. Yes, you heard that right. 2,500 episodes over the course of time. And it's terrific. It's called No BS Job Search Advice Radio. And subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you do that on Spotify, it's a video podcast, so you can watch me there. I'm also going to bring something back that I mentioned probably about a month ago. There's a book I contributed to called What We Got Wrong About Business. And it's available for free as a download. And you can get that download at thebiggamehunter.us/wrong. Wrong, I tell you. And download a free copy there, okay? And no, you're not going to get bombarded with a lot of crap. All we're doing, all those of us who've contributed to it are doing is giving away some advice, short essays on different subjects about what businesses got wrong. Okay. Now, I received a number of questions in advance of this show. And again, if you've got a question for me, put it into chat. And if you can't ever make it for one of these shows, what you do is you message me through LinkedIn. I'd be very happy to answer your questions. Okay. Now, the first question is, I applied for a job online. I went to check my application status, said the company didn't move forward with my application. I then got a call from the job wanting to schedule an interview. How does that happen? Sorry, that should be right there. How does that happen? Pretty easy. Ever make a mistake? Ever make a mistake? I suspect so. Now, it could be as simple as on the applicant tracking system, the rejection box is pretty close to something else, or the invitation box and the rejection box are really close to one another. And they wanted to send an invitation to you, but they inadvertently clicked the wrong box. That's certainly a possibility. It certainly is a possibility that they rejected you and then thought better of it. And as such, they're trying to rectify it by inviting you for an interview. So consider it a minor miracle that you have this interview opportunity and go forward. And I'll repeat, do not ask, gee, I got a rejection note from you. And then I got an invitation to interview with your company and with you. And how did that happen? There's no point in this. You're sitting opposite them or you're on screen doing a video interview or a phone interview, and they want to talk to you. Make them fall in love. That's the most important thing that you can do. Impress the heck out of them. Move ahead. That's what counts, okay? As a hiring manager, what are you always hiding from your applicants? Now, I've rarely been a hiring manager, so I'm going to just tell you from my experience in recruiting and from coaching, the thing I know that they tend to hide from people, and that is why the last four people who sat at that desk or worked for this group, this organization, this manager, why it was that they left. That's what they hide. No one ever tells you about that. Instead, they all talk about a great opportunity with a terrific team of people. Have I mentioned we're like family around here? Yeah, the ones in the holiday movies that want to kill one another. It's that kind of a family. But your goal, is to always impress, because you never know when you'll run into the manager again. Focus on that, not on what they're hiding. And when they say, so do you have any questions for us? Not on the first interview, but at a later round interview, you might ask, hey, look, I'm just curious. Someone else was doing this job previously. What happened to them? Well, they took a different opportunity to leave. Why was that? Well, they thought it was a better opportunity. What made it a better opportunity? I'm just curious. Say everything in a non-threatening way. And because remember, what you could be told is, I chose someone else for a particular project they really wanted, and they were disappointed and left. I think that's a great reason to leave. I have no fault that the hiring manager did that, but it's when they don't know, or they're not willing to divulge why, or they make excuses about, they weren't particularly good, so I kind of pushed them out the door. Well, what made them a failure for you? Just remember, they hired this person, or they hired someone that they believed was really good, and then institutional friction got in the way, and they wound up creating the circumstances that caused them to want to leave. So I'll just simply say, look to use your BS detector and figure out whether or not you're being sold a bill of goods or you have a manager here who's being honest with you. In that example, I chose someone else for a project they really wanted. I love that answer because it's honest. This person chose someone else. The other one was disappointed. They left. That's great. But some of the other stuff, you'll smell BS. Okay? I just left my job, and the manager told me I need to send her a statement that I decide to resign. What does it mean? There's an old Seinfeld episode where George quits, and he's encouraged to go back to work the next day because George made a mistake. And he goes back in and does his job. And everyone's kind of puzzled, like, didn't you just quit? Yeah. So what they're looking for is a letter of resignation that brings this to a complete circle and confirms in writing you've quit. And thus, from their standpoint, they have proof that you quit. That's it. Nothing more than that. Okay. And I'm just going to remind you, if you've got a question about job search, hiring, managing and leading, a career transition, or want advice about a particular workplace issue, put your question into chat. I'd be very happy to answer it for you. Okay. Why is it important to determine criteria and interview questions before bringing someone in for an interview? Easy. This one's really easy. And I'll just simply say, how do you know you're hiring the right person if you don't have any criteria? Seriously, how do you know you're hiring the right person if you haven't established minimum baseline criteria for evaluating and assessing people? You can't. You're going to operate by whim. Your biases are going to get in the way, positive and negative biases, and you're going to wind up hiring the wrong person. And with regard to interview questions, how are you going to assess them and evaluate them to see how they match those criteria unless you've determined minimum baseline questions that you're going to ask everyone that you interview? You can't. As a result, you have to determine criteria in advance so that you don't make mistakes that can prove damaging to you in your career. That's why you do it. So take the time in advance. Even if you're working over an old job requirement, what you want to be doing is making sure people meet the basics for this job. That's simple. After my interview, the recruiter told my agent, I hate when people say my agent. I'll get to that in a moment. That I'm very smart. Did this mean I won't get the offer? I told them I'm a systems engineer and I applied for a warehouse helper position. Why did you do that? Like, are you a student who wants to be a systems engineer? Is that what's going on? Now, the recruiter told your agent that you're very smart. Did the recruiter follow up and ask? Did the agent follow up and ask? I should say, are you rejecting him or her? Yes. Okay. Why is that? Because they're very smart. Well, warehouse helpers are smart. It's one of the criteria for the position. As a result, the fact that you're smart is not a criteria. The fact that you might be too smart for the job or too good for the job, you didn't make them trust you. Remember, when firms hire, competence is only one thing they look for. They look for self confidence, character, chemistry, maybe a little bit of charisma, because charismatic people always do better than those without charisma. That you care, that they can connect with you because they want to trust you. Often firms don't hire people who are too well educated or have too much of a different experience because they don't think you're going to stay in the job. As a result, that may be what they were signaling to the recruiter or to the agent, I should say, and they may not be interested in hiring you. And they may be. We don't know. The only thing I know is that they identified you as being smart. Okay, let's continue. Should I pay recruitment agencies to find internships? No. Now, recruiters, well, I know in New York, where I spent a lot of my career in recruiting, that people, recruiters were paid by companies, not by individuals. It was a legal requirement that you had to license with the Department of Consumer Affairs if you took fees from job applicants. And I'll simply say, why would a competent recruiter work for you to find an internship? Because you're paying them, the fees are small. Like, are you going to spend as much as they're used to earning for a full-time position? No. They get 20, 25, 30% of gross annual salary to fill a job uh, with one of their clients, with the company paying them. Should you pay a recruitment agency to find an internship? No. They're not going to do it except by accident and then to push you into paying them. And if you don't pay them, you think they're going to sue you? Of course not. So that's why most recruiters don't do it. It's not a smart move on their part. So the next question is, bear with me 1 second. I apologize. There we go. What's expected? I'm sorry. What's expected in this call after the final round? Uh, once what was said is, once again, thank you for participating in the interviews. We had a chance to align with the participants. We'd like to give you our final feedback. Would you be available for a short call at fill in the blank? The answer is you're probably being rejected, and they have the courtesy to tell you. If they wanted to hire you, they would have picked up the phone and said, Cheryl, you got a minute? Hi, just curious. What did you think on the last interview? Like, were you interested in the role? And they'd start to pre-close you on joining. They're not doing that. They just want to have a chance to talk with you, which signals to me that the probability is you're being rejected. Wish it were different, but that's probably what's going on. I'm going to do one more question today. I've had a busy day so far, so my apologies. I'm going to be back on Friday. I'm going to do one show next week on Tuesday, and then I'm going to be off until the second week in January. So I'll just simply say, before I do this last question, if you've got a question for me about job search, hiring, management, leadership, career transition, or just want advice about a particular workplace issue, put your question in the chat so I can help you. Last question. How do you stay relaxed during an interview? I think this is pretty easy. And the way you stay relaxed during an interview is you're well prepared. You have rehearsed. You have a sense of what you're going to be asked. And if you don't do that, everything is a surprise and people freak out. So your goal is to practice. Hire a coach, hire someone, ask a friend to help you. Prepare a series of questions that you want to be asked and have them listen to your answer. It's important that you speak. It's important that you ask questions that you speak your answers and don't just simply blab your answers to questions, so that this way you can make your mistakes in advance of the interview rather than during the interview. So how do you stay relaxed? You are practiced, rehearsed, and well prepared. So I'm Jeff Altman. Hope you found this helpful. Visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There's a ton in the blog that can help you. Plus, you can schedule time for a free discovery call or a coaching session. I want to help. Connect or follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/thebiggamehunter. My network tends to be a lot larger than most of yours. Visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us, to schedule time for a free discovery call, a coaching session, to visit my blog, which has more than 12,000 searchable posts. Find out about my courses, books, and guides. Again, a lot there to help. Lastly, subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube, download the app on Amazon, watch on BingeNetworks.tv, and subscribe to my podcast. The podcast is No BS Job Search Advice Radio. It's the #1 job search podcast in Apple Podcasts, with more than 2,500 episodes over more than 12 years. You can watch the podcast on Spotify. It's a video podcast there, or anywhere else you listen to shows. Have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great.